Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Dynasty Vipers ViperCast episode 24. Our host, Matt Donnelly, Dingus, at Dingus4, is currently in training, so he'll be here in 1 second. And Calvin is a little busy right now. I guess he's dealing with a hurricane and power outage, so hopefully he'll join us in a little bit. I'll get us started. So we do have the challenge that Calvin is supposed to be chugging some eggs, raw eggs, Rocky style. He did lose the bet. I'm eager to see this, but hopefully we have video. Yeah, we're doing matchups, but let me talk first about some bye week fill-ins just to grab, because some people end up dropping players that are on bye, and you should keep an eye on these guys. As you guys probably know, Kenyon Drake is out for 3 to 4 weeks minimum with a high ankle injury. He tore a ligament in his foot as well with the high ankle. So Chase Edmonds is running back 1. He needs to be grabbed if he's on your waiver wire. Look for some rumors out there regarding the Jacksonville Jaguars. Doug Marrone has talked about how they will look very different coming out of the bye. I guess that would mean Gardner Minshew will likely be benched, possibly for Jake Luton or Mike Glennon. So either way, what I'm doing in redraft is selling guys like DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault. Sell them now while their price is a little higher. They probably won't have that same price coming out of their bye if it is Jake Luton or Mike Glennon. And then just a couple things to keep an eye on. A bunch of trade rumors out there. I guess Houston is taking some calls on Will Fuller and Randall Cobb. The price has to be right, so there's a chance that they don't get moved. All right, so week 8, Thursday night football tomorrow. First matchup of the week, Atlanta against Carolina. Christian McCaffrey. There's Matt. How's it going, Matt?
It's going well here. I just wrapped up training here just a few minutes ago. I think you kind of mentioned it all right now. Calvin's kind of in the midst of a hurricane. So I think, honestly, it's because he finally lost a bet and has to suck on some raw eggs here tonight. And I think also this hurricane just happened to show up on the same day he has to pay off his bet. So I'm not too sure how much validity is to that. So we'll see. I know he's trying to jump on and try and get in here. I know he's trying to send us a video of him sucking eggs. So we'll see. We'll see if it happens or not.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical at this point.
Yeah, so I was just getting going on Atlanta, Carolina. Not sure if you saw this, kind of a surprise. Christian McCaffrey was designated to return, and he shed the non-contact jersey. So there's a small chance he actually plays.
I think what the Panthers, what I've been reading was they were kind of aiming for that week 9 target. So I don't know if he's going to play this week, but I think week 9 you're going to see him back in the lineup. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think you're going to see the same workload from Christian McCaffrey as we've seen in the past. Mike Davis has came in, stepped in, and filled in admirably in his absence. And I could definitely see Mike Davis get about 25% of those snaps, those touches still that McCaffrey would have had on a regular basis. So that's something definitely to watch, even with a healthy McCaffrey. And the Panthers, they're kind of in the midst of it in that division there in the playoff race. So if they can somehow find a way to weasel themselves into the playoffs, they want to keep McCaffrey as healthy as possible going into that stretch drive.
For sure. Yeah, and I saw Matt Rule talked about he would even consider keeping Curtis Samuel involved in the backfield, even when CMC comes back. So
well, I don't know why you wouldn't. The more talented players you got touching the ball, the better your opportunities are. Keep those teams guessing. We see teams like the Rams are a fantastic example of that on those jet sweeps. Cooper Kupp gets in on those jet sweeps. Robert Woods obviously does those jet sweeps. And then you've got that two-headed machine there between Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson right now. And that running game looks very effective, and it's come from you at different angles. Much like what the Panthers did there, Samuel had that rushing touchdown last week, something to keep in mind. And that's really the first sign of life we've seen from Curtis Samuel outside of preseason action where he gets us all hyped up every year.
Yeah. Is Curtis Samuel a safe play for you this week against Atlanta, though?
Oh, hell no. I ain't touching Curtis Samuel anytime. if there was a time to play him, it is against the Falcons. It's one of those teams you want to kind of start all your offensive players at any chance you get. For me personally, I'm kind of holding. I don't know if I'm quite ready to start him.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, the two, DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. But yeah, if CMC is inactive, if he doesn't play, then I'd consider Curtis Samuel as a flex play if I'm desperate. But aside from that, no.
See, now this is where I miss Calvin, because I guarantee you he'd be like, play Curtis Samuel, because I have the opposite opinion. So that's kind of where we're at there. We kind of go head to head here on a lot of things, and that would sound like a good bet coming on.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, and on Atlanta's side, Julio Jones was limited with the hit, but he should be fine. I kind of think that'll be a shootout because both defenses are just bad.
That's kind of where I'm leading here. So let's kind of we're in that. We're talking Falcons. We're talking Panthers. You kind of broke down some of those injuries. We know the more banged up Julio is, the better Calvin Ridley looks, no matter what. Julio started off slow. I think he missed 2 of the first 7 weeks, kind of thing. I think he missed 2 games already. And in that third game, that's when he was kind of banged up and not very productive. When Julio's 75 to 80% ready to go, Julio's one of the best receivers in the National Football League, regardless of his injuries.
Yeah.
And if he's catching touchdowns, he's the best receiver in fantasy football. If you can add those, he's a guy I don't think has had less than 1,300 receiving yards in any season that he's been in the National Football League. So he's definitely the most productive. It's those touchdowns that he just doesn't get. He doesn't find a way to the end zone ever.
And was it last year? Yeah, I think you could have been able to say 1,400 for the past 5 or 6 years, but last year he was 17 yards shy, I think.
Yeah, it was something like that. This is where I miss Calvin, because he's got all those nerdy numbers for us. And I can say whatever I want, because if he's not on the show, that means he's lost power completely at his house, and there's no way he's able to tune in and defend himself. So.
All right.
So what's the one thing? Well, what's the one thing that you're really focusing on in the Atlanta Carolina matchup?
Really, for me, it's the one thing really would be if Christian McCaffrey does play or not. Aside from that, I'm looking to see if Robbie Anderson keeps up his terror or if DJ Moore continues to ramp up, which he has each week.
Yeah, he 2 weeks ago, I think it was, he had a very productive game there. Yeah. I think he had a couple touchdowns there. And then last week, we're starting to see more of the DJ Moore that we expected to see there from the start of the season. Last week, I think he was, the last 3 weeks, 4 catches, 93 and a touchdown. Then against the Bears, 5 catches, 93 yards on 11 targets against the Bears. And then last week, the 2 touchdowns on 4 receptions and 93 yards. So he's had 3 straight weeks of 93 receiving yards. But for me, that Bears game, he maybe not have scored a touchdown, but those 11 targets, that's kind of going, hey, Teddy's like, what, let's get DJ going. We get DJ going with Roddy Anderson, with Christian McCaffrey coming back with Mike Davis in the lineup. Like, we could be a very dangerous team. Could you imagine a set where you put Mike Davis in the backfield, you throw McCaffrey and Samuel in the slot, and then you throw Anderson and Moore on the outside. You throw a little bit of motion, jet sweep action with McCaffrey and with Samuel. That would be very tough to defend and try to figure out where that ball is coming from or where it's going. So they can definitely get creative on offense.
You have to imagine that's what Joe Brady,
Well, I'll tell you what. If Calvin was here, he'd definitely be mentioning Brady here and everything that he can do and all the fantastic things he's capable of doing, especially within that offense. For me,
he's LSU boy, huh?
He loves his LSU boys. It's sickening. It is absolutely sickening. So the one thing I'm watching is, obviously, as an Alabama fan, Julio. I want to see where he's at, because even, like I said, Julio at 80% is still 90% better than 95% of the receivers in the game. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if any of those numbers actually add up to a full number, but we're going to throw a bunch of numbers out there because that's how I like to pretend to be smart. Now, saying that, I'm really interested to see – I want to see Todd Gurley really get on a roll. I think for Atlanta to get going, they need to do that. Now, what I want to see, probably even more than that, is Atlanta with the lead in the fourth quarter and closing a game out for once. They desperately need to close a game out. And this is one of those games where Carolina is right in the thick of things with Tampa and with New Orleans, where Carolina really needs this game. This is one of those games I think that Atlanta might actually close out because it would make a real mess of things in that division. So can Atlanta close a game out? And that's what I want to see here. Now that we're kind of talking a lot about Atlanta there in the first 10 minutes of the show, let's kind of move along here to I'm kind of running off my script here off of my fantasy league, who doesn't sponsor us, but they might as well because I got like 40 leagues with them. The Patriots Bills. There's some reports that basically Cam Newton's arm is about to fall off. I think I read that somewhere on Twitter. So Twitter doctors are in full swing.
I need to add that to my injury list, my injury thread.
Yeah. Arm falling off. That's key. That's a key. Because if that arm goes off, it actually falls off. Well, it depends on which arm it is. But
it might make him a better passer.
Well, it might not hurt. The Patriots Bills, for me, this is an intriguing matchup. I think you could put a fork in New England and call them done if they drop this one. Yeah. This is a big game for them. This is a big game in the AFC East. And for the Bills, too, let's not forget, they're reeling a little bit here after a couple of losses in a row, with Miami only a game back. Miami's 3-3, and I think Buffalo's 4-2 or something. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm going to pull up some numbers here when I'm looking at this, but they're pretty close. Like Miami's right there on right behind Buffalo, with obviously New England clearly behind, and doesn't look like they're getting many reinforcements back. Okay, so Buffalo's 5-2, so they're 2 games back. Yeah. But a Miami win puts them at 4-3. A Buffalo loss here would put them at 5-3, and then you're looking at that half game difference. So I don't see any way that New England wins this, but I want to see if they've got enough fight in them to take it to the Bills in a key AFC East matchup. You know, Bill Belichick is scheming for this one. You know they're ready. Thing I'm watching more than anything is Cole Beasley. He's a man on a mission the last few weeks. Does he keep this up? Because Bill Belichick likes to take away your top options. Stephon Diggs is probably going to be his first read on who to stop. That means Cole Beasley, who's absolutely been destroying things lately, has an opportunity to go off again this week. The most underrated receiver in football right now is Cole Beasley. I'm not too sure what kind of PPR leagues you're in and whatnot, but I think Cole Beasley may be bordering wide receiver 24 creeping into that wide receiver 2 range in a lot of leagues. And I think he's still probably on the waiver wire on a few of those leagues. Like it's insane right now, the amount of what Cole Beasley's been doing, and of course how much we just continue to hate on him. So what are you looking for? What do you got for us in this matchup?
Yeah, I love that call about Cole Beasley. Looks like John Brown will be back too, so he'll be a field stretcher. He may open it up even more for Beasley and give the Patriots defense a little more of a threat.
What we talked about last week, and we mentioned right on the show during the Bills, how much more effective the Bills are with John Brown, that field stretcher in their lineup. And he hasn't been in the lineup the last couple of weeks, and we've seen that offense kind of take a step back because of that.
Yeah. So I like, especially with how the Patriots looked last week. I know it was the Niners, but I just don't. Granted, you never want to say this with a division game. It can go either way. But I think the Bills will run away with this one. And honestly, what I'm looking at is if the Patriots lose this one, do they then become sellers? Because there's rumors out there they're already looking to sell Stephon Gilmore, a couple other guys, you know.
Well, we've started to see some teams sell. We've seen Cincinnati sell Carlos Dunlap, who hasn't been a real good fit for them this year, and going off to Seattle. We've seen these rumors that Green Bay is looking for a wide receiver. What kind of option? I don't think Edelman would ever be an option for Green Bay, but you never know. Like you said, Green Bay, New England might be in the selling kind of thing, and they always tend to sell players or move on from players once they've kind of hit that wall. And from what we've seen from Edelman this year, is that wall came hard, and he hasn't been as productive as what we would hope him to be. So, just a quick little update on Cole Beasley in half-point PPR, 6 points per touchdown. He's wide receiver 22 in one of my leagues.
Ooh. So full. He's got to be up there. 16, 17 maybe?
Who?
In full PPR?
Yeah, he'd be probably pretty close. He's only got 39 receptions so far through 7 games. But if you look at the last little bit, he's gone 3 receptions, 6, 4, 11 last week. That 11 reception game.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a good way to make it up. And Junior's here peeking into the camera here, thinking he's being sneaky. So,
Dad,
yeah.
can you help me find the Lunchables for lunch tomorrow?
The Lunchables in your lunch are in the garage in the freezer.
But they're not big, and I don't know what the bag looks like.
It's a plastic bag, dude. I'm going to go help find some Lunchables. If you want to just kind of touch a little bit more on the Patriots and the Bills as far as injuries go, and what's the one thing you're looking for probably more than any?
Yeah. And one other thing I'm looking for too is what ends up happening with the split between Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, because Moss looked like he was about to run away with the job last week, even though Singletary and Moss were relatively close in snaps. I want to say I did that in my snap thread. But Moss just looked like the better run threat behind that O-line. Moss was at 47% and Singletary was at 54%. And so that Moss jumped right back when he returned from injury. Week 1 and 2, he was at 45 and 46% snaps. So he's going to be on the field more. He's going to get more touches. I think rest of the season, I kind of like Zach Moss more than Devin Singletary as a threat. One key for the Patriots, other than Edelman, who has been struggling with a knee injury, I mean, you can't really rely on any of their pass catchers. N'Keal Harry's out with concussion. He may pass the play call in time on Friday or Saturday, but can you even trust him? And then my thing is, do you even want to pick a running back from the Patriots? Damian Harris could run away with the job, but now he's struggling with an ankle injury, so I could see Belichick relying more on Rex Burkhead. It's going to be a mess.
It's New England's always been a mess for running backs.
Yeah.
James
Blount?
White is probably. Well, and Blunt wasn't a guarantee to touch the ball unless they got within the 2-yard line.
Yeah,
really. James White, Rex Burkhead, Damian Harris. None of them have stood out this year. They've all had their opportunities. They've all been kind of banged up at different points. I'm avoiding that backfield altogether. There's better options out there, like a Gio Bernard. Who else was there? Your boy there, Hasty. He's an option this week. It looks like it's going to be McKinnon and Hasty this week, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But yeah. I think there's better options than anyone that you could find on the New England backfield.
Agreed.
Who's
next on MFL?
I've got the Rams and the Dolphins. We kind of touched base on the Dolphins 3-3, kind of an upstart. Flores has got that team rolling right now. The debut, the first start. Let's call it the start. It's no longer a debut. He's already come and gone. The first start of Tua Tagovailoa Vea.
Nailed it.
Yeah, close enough. You know what? I say like 90% of words wrong anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Tua time is officially underway. I still think they did Fitz dirty. I'm still not happy about it, but I'm a big Fitz fan. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks to watch in the league. He just looks like he's having fun. But I also know Tua is one of the most humble individuals out there too. And he's like, I want to show what I can do, but it sucks it's coming this way. But I think Miami kind of felt the pressure with the success of Joe Burrow, with the success of Herbert. And it's like, okay, you know what? We got to get our 5th overall choice on the field right now and get our number 1 quarterback out there. So here we go. We're going to roll him out. And here's something that people don't really talk about. I think Miami, and again, no one's watching right now, so no one's going to correct me. I believe Miami's original bye week was supposed to be week 11 before everything got turned upside down. I believe Miami's plan from the get-go was to put Tua in at their bye week, give them that extra week of practice with the starters. No preseason, no camp, no nothing. So you know what? Let's kind of bring them along 9-10 weeks into the year. Bye week hits. Let's get them going. Let's roll them out for week 12. End of the season kind of show. Well, guess what? Things got moved up. Things got expedited. They had a bye week last week. Now they put him in during their bye week, and now we're here at week 8, and he's starting. I do believe that is the reason we're seeing him now. I believe the plan the whole time was to get him in after the bye week, except their bye week was previously week 11 and got moved up to week 7. I'm not an expert, but that's kind of where I'm thinking was the line of thought for Flores, because it kind of caught everyone off guard. I don't think they would have felt that Fitzpatrick would have had him at 500 6 weeks into the season. But you got to start in summer. So obviously the big thing we're looking for, myself more than anything, is how well Tua is going to stand there in the pocket with Mr. Aaron Donald coming up his gut here, just looking to rip him a new asshole his first game into the season.
What a matchup for your debut.
It is something, but I guarantee you he's going to have that team ready to roll to the point where, you know what, we got something to prove. This is a winnable game for us. We're in the thick of things in the AFC East, and let's protect our young quarterback. And Tua is very charismatic in how he approaches things. And he's no slouch. He played in that SEC for a long time. He's seen talent. He's never seen an Aaron Donald before, but there's been some pretty good players he's seen come through his practice, the Deron Paynes, the Jonathan Allens, the Quinnen Williams guys. All these guys have come through that Alabama program, professionals, but Aaron Donald's next level. So that's the matchup I want to see. How that interior line holds up and protects Tua, and how willing Tua is willing to sit there and watch the bear come at him and take that shot. Because we really haven't seen Tua tackled yet since he's returned.
Yeah, true. He was pushed a little bit once, but that's it. Yeah. I'm really curious to see who he connects with most between Devonta Parker, Preston Williams, and Gesicki, or someone else, maybe Myles Gaskin out of the backfield.
This is the one. We've always noticed this with backup quarterbacks coming in. There's always that guy they're working with on the second team or the practice squad that they have that chemistry with. Is there someone right now, if you take a look at the Dolphins team, whom we believe that he was probably practicing with, that he may kind of have that chemistry built in already? So
I love this comment from somebody earlier this week. Gesicki had an interview, Mike Gesicki, saying, Tua and I will be fine. We practiced a ton on scout team. And someone had the comment of, well, yeah, we can tell you've been on scout team because you have 0 production.
Ooh, that's a dig. Could this be the week that we? Well, I'm looking here, and could this be the week? Because Tua is a mobile quarterback. He does run that RPO. Could this be the week we kind of see Lynn Bowden Jr. and Malcolm Perry make a difference?
Possibly, yeah.
Both running back, wide receiver type players, both from the third team kind of thing, second team. Probably took a lot of reps with him in the offseason. Maybe a little Isaiah Ford mixed in there. I don't know what we're going to see. Mac Hollins maybe. So these are kind of guys that we should keep an eye on. Don't start them. Don't draft them. Don't pick them up unless you got really deep benches. But it's always with a quarterback coming in. He's always got a guy that he's been practicing with for, in this case, 6 weeks already, 7 weeks already.
Yeah, that's a great call. Yeah, and on the Rams, one other thing on Miami's side, Devonta Parker still popped up with the groin injury. It's been 2 weeks. He played last game. I think he'll be fine. He's listed as limited for now. I'm willing to bet by the end of the week he sheds the injury designation.
So I'm going to go back here just a little bit because I'm just going to have a little bit of fun here because I think between the two of us this week doing the show without Calvin, we can probably ramble on a little bit more. Falcons, Panthers, who do you got?
Oh, okay, go for it. I'm gonna go Panthers. I think Atlanta still loses.
You know what? I talked about it. It was part of my thing. I want to see them close. I'm going to say Atlanta like 31-27. They get the deal done. But they're going to be at that point where they're up by more than 3. They're going to be up by 4, and a touchdown is going to win it. And I guarantee you, Carolina's going to have the ball with 2 minutes left marching. That's what I'm kind of called. But I'm going to say Atlanta closes the deal this week. Patriots, Bills, who you got?
I got Bills.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. There's really not much to say until we see a pulse coming from New England. I can't get behind them right now. Rams, Dolphins.
I'm gonna say Rams.
It's hard to go against the Rams in this one, but I'm going to go against the Rams in this one. I'm going to take the Dolphins. I think if you're in a against the spread, I'm definitely taking the Dolphins here. I just there's something about this Flores team that just I can definitely get behind. I'm not going to say they're going to win this game, but I think that I want to take them anyway because I really believe in what Flores is selling and what this team's believing in right now. Which kind of brings us. So we kind of talked about what we're expecting with Tua here. Talked about Parker, Williams a little bit. Is there anything we're really looking for on this Rams team now as far as injuries go?
Yeah, so Daryl Henderson actually pulled up in the third quarter. He exited with a calf injury. Never, you don't root for injuries. Come on, man.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But so they turned to Malcolm Brown again. McVay loves the guy. It's never going to be the Cam Akers show. So that's what I'm looking for. Not never, but that's what I'm looking at is I want to see how McVay runs his running backs. And I'm willing to bet that it'd be Malcolm Brown over Akers if Daryl Henderson is out.
I believe it's going to be Malcolm Brown, a heavy dose of it. I do think Cam Akers is definitely the most talented running back on that roster. But this is a Malcolm Brown that when they had Todd Gurley, the Detroit Lions tried to poach him away. And the Rams were like, nope, we're going to pay him. And they paid him. And at the time with Todd Gurley, I think Todd Gurley even had 2 healthy knees at the time. They're like, nope, no, we're not letting go of Malcolm Brown here. And they hung on to him. And they really like him.
Yeah, they love him.
I agree. I think they want to give Malcolm Brown every opportunity. And Malcolm Brown and Henderson, to their credit, have looked fantastic in their opportunities with the ball. So I really don't think do you think that's more about the running backs or the way they're running that offensive line, stretching it out a little bit too? Because they're doing a lot of things with that offensive line, quick screens, jet sweeps, things where they don't really have to block a whole lot for a whole long time. And the running backs are taking advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to see the number. There's a guy, Marvin Elequin. I think I'm butchering his last name, but he creates a thread each week on yards created. And honestly, I've watched some Rams games, and I agree part of it is scheme, and what they're doing with the offensive line. But Malcolm Brown creates his own yards pretty darn well. I mean, he's kind of an underrated back.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And I'm glad to see that their patience with Henderson, whether they wanted to be patient with him or they had to be patient with him, is starting to pay off for them right now.
He's so explosive.
Yeah.
One other thing on that too is some people have asked about Cam Akers' rib injury. That was week 2. It's been 5 going on 6 weeks. That shouldn't be limiting him anymore. He should be past that injury. So unless there's something else going on behind the scenes, I think it's just McVay picking who he wants to throw out there versus injury related.
I agree. Typically for a professional athlete here, I know for myself, who's nowhere near a professional athlete, a cracked rib was usually about a 2-week kind of period of time in which you were back to almost 100%, like close. These guys are probably easily back to 100% the way medicine has come and hyperbaric chambers and all these things that they've got at their disposal. I'm thinking 2 weeks is probably good enough. The only thing that maybe slow him down is if someone punctured his lung with a cortisone shot or something, right? So
check Cam Akers' bank account.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that works out. An interesting game here. I like to call these kind of trap games. The Titans and the Bengals. The Titans kind of got punched. The Titans have been punching everyone in the mouth. They've been kind of bullying everyone. Well, they got into Pittsburgh last week, and Pittsburgh smacked them around for the first half before finally Tennessee's like, holy crap, let's get back into it. And they woke up. But basically, big old Pittsburgh put Tennessee over their knee and slapped their ass around for a little while. Now, I don't believe in smacking people's asses, but that's basically what they did. And now Tennessee's coming into Ohio and going against the Bengals. And I think Burrow is in a lot of trouble in this one.
Especially because it looks like Jonah Williams might be out. He won't have his young left tackle, right? Correct.
Yeah. Second-year player, first year really playing because he was redshirted as a rookie, basically.
Yeah. But I mean, that offensive line, I have so many Burrow shares, and that offensive line is just horrendous. And Jonah Williams is probably one of their better guys.
So I actually had a buddy message me today for advice. And he's in my league, and I actually better probably find out if I'm playing him this week because I don't even bother checking. This happened to me a couple weeks ago, and I lost. A buddy asked me for advice, so I gave him advice, and he put those players in. I didn't realize he was playing against me, and he beat me with those players. So this might be happening again. But he basically goes, should I go Joe Burrow or Teddy Bridgewater this week? And I said to him, I said, well, it's in our league. I know it's our league. I said, I think you honestly have to go Bridgewater here. I think Burrow's going to throw for 300 yards, but I don't think he gets a touchdown. And I think Teddy Bridgewater is a 225 and 2 touchdown kind of guy this week. So depending on how much your passing yards are actually worth, touchdowns are typically worth a little bit more. So I'll take 75 less yards passing, which is usually around 3 points, to gain 12 points in touchdowns, right? So it's a net of 9 points if that was the situation. I do think Teddy Bridgewater is going to throw for 250 and 2 touchdowns, and Joe Burrow may throw for 325, but I don't think he finds the end zone against the Titans this week.
I think he gets at least one. I'd bank on T. Higgins getting a touchdown, but one touchdown. Maybe. I love T. Higgins, man. But yeah, probably 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions against Tennessee, and yeah.
And it looks
Honestly,
like it's probably going to be another.
Atlanta, you have to go Bridgewater. I feel like.
I think you gotta go Bridgewater as a safe bet there. The other thing kind of on this is I think this is another Geo week. Mixon's still not back in. We're on hump day. We're on Wednesday. So he's got basically 3 days to do something, right? We kind of figure Saturday's kind of that deadline. If you're not doing anything by Saturday, you're probably not playing on Sunday or Monday. Saturday's kind of their cutoff for their designations, right? So
usually Sunday games it's Friday still.
Friday.
But he's listed as day-to-day, but the other thing to consider is, I mean, Gio's no slouch. He played pretty darn well last week, and they have the bye week coming up. So with a midfoot sprain, I mean, why even throw Mixon out there?
Yeah, and here's the thing. We talked about Malcolm Brown and how the Lions tried to poach him back a few years ago. Well, only a couple years ago, with Mixon still under contract, they re-upped Gio Bernard, and they paid him a good money to be their backup running back, so to speak. They knew full well Mixon would be their guy. They signed Mixon long-term, even though they gave Gio Bernard that decent contract for a running back too. So them Bengals, as much as the Rams, like their backup running back as much as anybody. And I think they have faith in him. So I just don't think that this is the week that anyone in Cincinnati, other than maybe T. Higgins, finds success. And by the way, I think T. Higgins had about 104 receiving yards last week, if I'm not mistaken. He had he balled out last week.
Yeah, he has
he's starting to make our boy Mike feel a little bit better, probably about his Big Mac challenge with Chase there, giving Chase the entire field. So if you don't know about this, Mike is about as bold as I am, and I think he took T. Higgins as the rest of the season wide receiver rookie 1 and gave Chase the entire field. That's how bold he was being. I think whoever loses that bet's probably hoping it gets forgotten about, because I'll tell you what, that Big Mac challenge last week was no bueno. But
I went back and watched that. Almost threw up.
And here's the thing. So I don't think this is going to affect the Titans this week, but Taylor Lewan, he's done for the season. Huge blow for the Titans. We in fantasy don't really talk about offensive line all that much, especially injuries to the offensive line. But when you're missing your starting tackles, kind of a big deal. When you're missing interior linemen, big deal. Especially when you're in a division and you're in a race for the playoffs and you know you're going to go against teams like the Ravens, who have a fantastic – the Ravens and the Steelers have 2 of the highest rated pass rushes according to PFF in the entire league. And these are teams that they're definitely going to have to go through to get to where they want to be. Yeah. So for me, I want to see, and this is what we call a slump buster. If your line is struggling, you want the Bengals because there's no pass rush coming from the Bengals. There is 0 pass rush. Baker Mayfield completed like 22 straight passes with no one near him last week, right? Now, the Browns line is better than people give them credit for. It's one of the better rated lines according to PFF as well. I think they're number one, actually, as far as pressures allowed. But a lot of you have to take into account with Cincinnati Bengals. I think they played them twice now, right? Have they played the Bengals twice or just the once?
I want to say just once so far.
I actually think they've played them twice. Like the first game of the season where either way, if you're playing the Bengals, you know you're not getting a pass rush. So your line's going to grade a lot better than it normally is. So if you're going to put a new tackle in, yeah, they played them week 2 and week 7, the Bengals and Browns. So if you're going to put a new tackle, you want to do some things with your offensive line to try and get it, this is definitely a week to get yourself right. So I want to see that from the Titans this week, getting that line right, getting ready for the next week, getting ready. I know we're not supposed to look on to the next matchup, but with the Bengals, it's pretty easy to do, especially when you're a team like the Titans. What are you looking for?
Sometimes. I also like this as a bounce back game for Johnny Smith too. He had a pretty rough game last week.
Well, and sorry, Corey Davis season, it's back. All I'm saying is he missed some time with an injury. He came back last week, found the end zone. Just saying, and now he gets the Bengals end zone again. Just saying, putting it out there. Corey Davis season keeps on rolling. That's my second favorite type of season. My favorite season's coming up a little bit later. We'll talk about that. So. Obviously, you're probably with me on this one. We're both with the Titans rolling through Cincy on this one with the big dub.
Yeah.
Raiders, Browns. I'm no injury expert, but I still haven't heard anything about Trent Brown coming back to the Raiders offensive line yet. Jonathan Abram looks like he's coming back. His designation's been taken off on MFL. There's no Q tag there or anything. So, or a C tag or whatever they're going with nowadays. So it sounds like he's going to be back in their lineup. Unlike the Bengals, the Raiders have a solid defense in place in which Max Crosby can get you some pressure. I wish I could say Clelin Ferrell gets you pressure, but that hasn't happened yet. They've got some good parts, and their offense has been clicking lately. With Henry Ruggs in their lineup, they're a different beast as far as offensive game goes. Even Derek Carr. Derek Carr is one of the more productive quarterbacks right now in the entire league that nobody's talking about until he has a bad game. Then we'll all be talking about him because that's like what we like to do about him. We just seem to like to knock Derek Carr every opportunity that we get. And if I'm trying to pull it up here, I'm trying to pull up some stats for you on Derek Carr.
You might be getting Brian Edwards back too.
That would be a big addition. So right now, Derek Carr had his bye week. He's already played his bye week, and he's sitting about that QB 15 range right now. So he's just outside the top 12 with one less game than I would say. I'm looking at this. The quarterbacks that are ahead of him, there's 4 of them that have had their bye week.
Yeah, I think
4 of them that have had their bye week. And some of the ones that are above him are Prescott, are Gardner Minshew, who may be losing his job here sooner than later, Carson Wentz, who just started getting hot the last 2 weeks again. So it's very plausible to see Derek Carr, like I said at the beginning of the season, as a QB1 inside the top 12. He's right there on the cusp. And he's also ahead of Lamar Jackson. Just saying, throwing it out there.
Yep. And as a Fresno State guy, I love that.
He is Fresno. You got to love Fresno, man.
Yeah.
But we look at this. So what's the one thing that you're kind of focusing on between the Raiders and the Browns? Also, there's injuries in this one. Key injuries, too.
Yep. Yeah, honestly, both run games. Looks like for the Browns, Kareem Hunt has been getting more on the healthy side after his rib injury. But Josh Jacobs, I mean, I'd have to look back at it. I want to say he saw a season low in snaps. 49%. He hadn't dipped below 59% since week 3. 49% last week. And I didn't realize
he had 10 carries and 3 receptions last week.
Yeah. Yeah. So part of it, I mean, they were losing by a lot, but also he left with a knee injury as well. So I'm watching on that one because that's a big one. If he's out, it'd probably be Devontae Booker. He's more of a one for one swap with Josh Jacobs, not Jalen Richard. At least from what I've seen. I don't know if you have feedback on that.
Yeah, you're right. But we've seen this all season where Booker's come in and he's been the spell guy there, where they've given him full reps. The only time we've seen Booker come in almost take a full series or a couple series every game. Where when Jalen Richard gets his opportunity to take those is usually in the 2-minute drill or kind of third down when they're in a hurry up offense. That's when you see Richard comes into the play. That's even with Jacobs.
Geo, usually.
Yeah, when they're in a hurry up offense, last 2 minutes, that's kind of when you're going to see Richard when they're trying to get up tempo. They're trying to slow things down and try and bang away. It's been Jacobs. Or Booker, who's had some success as well. So it's definitely Booker's the play if Jacobs is out. He was limited today because of that knee injury, like you said. He's been so hit and miss this year for me. He's had 2 big weeks. Week 1 against the Panthers, that was a 3 touchdown. And then week 5 against the Chiefs was a 2 touchdown performance. Outside of that, it's been disappointing. It's been 88 yards, 71 yards, 48 yards. Last week, 17 yards on the ground. But we'll see
how many receptions does he have on the year?
On the year, his receptions are actually a little bit higher than you would think. They're 18. He's had 18 receptions on 24 targets. So they've tried to get him into it. I can't remember what his numbers were exactly last year. I believe he only had 20 receptions last year on 28 targets. So you've definitely seen an uptick in there. He's already almost matched, and he should have, if he plays this week, will match last week's receiving totals. I think he had 166 yards last year. I think he's at 122 right now. So definitely they're using him more in the passing game. Not as much as obviously us owners would like, or us managers would like to see. So obviously what I want to see is I want to see Josh Jacobs. I want to see him get right. I want to see some consistency week in and week out other than these big games. Like 5 touchdowns this year sounds fantastic until you realize it's in 2 games.
Yeah.
So 5 touchdowns in 7 games sounds great. It sounds like you're getting good production. He is one of the top running backs in fantasy, but he's been so boom or bust every week. It's tough to trust him. And last week I took one on the chin because the homer in me, and I knew better. I should have known better. I thought I was being smart. So I made sure I got Terry McLaurin in my lineup. You remember that question that I posed in our chat. Yep. So I put Terry McLaurin in. Yeah, I feel good about it. I took James Robinson out, and I left Josh Jacobs in against my better judgment because I do remember someone saying, yeah, maybe pull Jacobs out. And I thought, they're playing Tampa. That's probably a good move. I still won both my matchups in that league because we have double headers every week, but points matter in that league because if our league shuts down, it's not your head-to-head record. It's your overall record that they go to.
Oh. So
you could say you get to the point and you're a double header every week. Like right now, I think my record in that league is 8-6, but my all play record is 47-30, which would be first place. Even though I'm in third right now, my overall record would be first. So every point, every win matters. So if I would have put Robinson in instead of Josh Jacobs, my 47-30 record now becomes a 56 and whatever, you know what I mean? Because I would have beat X amount of teams. So
gotcha.
Kind of a big kick in the nuts on that pick, but we all make mistakes, right? And I let the homerism get to me. I thought Jacobs, maybe he'll get to the end zone. Maybe he'll punch it in, Silly me. Never bet against my boy James Robinson. Never bet against my boy James Robinson. I did it again.
Well, shoot, I didn't expect him to. He was the only running back to have not just a rush, but a touch. No other running back. Granted, Chris Thompson was out with COVID, but they activated Divine Zigbo.
Yeah.
But James Robinson,
Raquel Armstead, he's got all kinds of complications there with what he's been going through. So we're wishing him the best right now because I don't think any of us know what he's actually got or what he's going through. But
well, he's had complications with COVID. He's been hospitalized twice now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So prayers up for him.
So what's the one thing you're looking for in this Browns matchup with the Raiders? You know me, is getting Jacobs going.
Well, yeah, I would say the same thing for the Raiders. Getting Jacobs going and then taking advantage of the Browns secondary being a little banged up, getting Ruggs going deep. On the Browns side, I mean, honestly, how do they replace OBJ? I know he hasn't been the most consistent, but he's still a threat, you know. I love Harrison Bryant, to be honest. Out of the three, if you were picking Harrison Bryant between him, Rashard Higgins, and Donovan Peoples-Jones, honestly, I like Harrison Bryant the best, especially with Austin Brown having surgery for appendicitis.
Yeah, that one kind of, well, whenever you get one of those always come out of the blue, those type of injuries. You don't really expect them to come. You don't see it happen. All of a sudden, it's right there. I've got the Raiders winning this week. I have them winning every week, but I definitely haven't beaten the Browns this week. I think the Browns played well against teams that they're supposed to play well against. And I think they've been, and when they start getting in the fist fight so far, they haven't had that fight back in them. They beat the Bengals twice. The Bengals. Okay, so let's pump the brakes on any kind of parade you got planning on here. Next matchup, we're going to move along here. Jets, Chiefs. What are you looking for here? What do you got?
Can the Jets put up more than 4 yards in the second half? Is the first thing. And then, honestly, I look forward to Denzel Mims. I think he's going to make a bigger impact. The Chiefs do well with taking away. They're kind of like the Patriots. I'd have to truly go back and look, but they're kind of like the Patriots in my mind of taking away the best player. And the big question is, will Jamison Crowder play? He's still dealing with a groin injury, so that honestly could be a multi-week issue. Rashad Perriman, I don't expect to play. He got absolutely walloped, concussion. And then no concern with Sam Darnold, so he should be good. So really I want to see Sam Darnold and Denzel Mims connect a little bit more. And then the Chiefs,
I would love to see that.
Yeah, Mims is talented. The Chiefs last week, I really want to see how this running back situation plays out. CEH easily led the way last week. If you're looking at snaps, but looking at touches, I mean, CEH only had 9 rushes, 4 targets, and Le'Veon Bell had 6 rushes, 0 targets. So it's not like it's a big workload for either of them. It's still going to go through Mahomes, right? So
for the first half.
Say that again?
For the first half, it will.
Yeah.
You want my bold prediction?
Oh, let's hear it.
Chad Henne outscores Sam Darnold this week.
In what, a quarter and a half? When does he come in?
Probably built mid-third.
Yeah, I can see it.
Disrespect.
Yeah, I can see it.
I'm just throwing it out there, but I think it's key to get Darnold on page with Denzel Mims. Unfortunately, I don't think Darnold's going to be the quarterback of the Jets next year. And I also don't believe he's been given a fair shake. You see Josh Allen. When they came out, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, people kind of go back and forth. Darnold had more talent. Everyone was pumping the Southern Cowboy here a little bit more. Well, now we've seen Josh Allen surpass him as far as fantasy and even as in the standings. But that's because the Bills have actually given Allen some tools to work with. Yeah. Smokey Brown, Stephon Diggs, Singletary, Moss, Beasley. Like I said, Beasley gets underrated every time. Everyone wants to shit on Beasley every chance they get. He's a solid receiver, much solider than anything that they have in the Jets right now.
I would put Crowder and Beasley similar.
Crowder, I love Crowder. There's no doubt where Crowder belongs. Denzel Mims, we know he's going to be a fantastic professional. We just see what I just can't trust anyone on the Jets right now outside of Crowder. Rashard Perriman, he had 1 6-week stretch where he was unbelievable. That's all we've seen of him. You know, good on you. You pulled your Devontae Parker with your hairline that starts halfway back on your head. His hairline starts like right here. Perryman's probably really 62 years old, as far as we know. I haven't actually seen his birth certificate.
His knee, at least, too.
Oh, his knee is horrible. I'm no doctor either, but I know bad knee when I see it. The only knee that works, my left knee's no good, my right knee's no good, but my wee knee's fantastic. So when we take a look at some womp, 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 this is kind of what I'm talking about. They haven't given Darnold the tools. His best weapon is 912-year-old Frank Gore right now. Now, Vincent Smith, my boy, he's getting healthy. He's starting to make his way back in the lineup. You watch out. He's the best receiver on the Jets.
We can't do a week without you bringing him up.
He's my boy. I love him. He actually entertained me when I was asking him questions. It's his fault. I'm like puppy. You like pet me once or twice, I'm right there on your lap. That's kind of how this show rolls here.
He saw 7% snaps and 5%. 5 and 3 total snaps.
Only way to go is up, right? Here we go.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he's going down apparently. I do want to see what Michael Perrine too.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people want to see is what Perrine can do there when he gets an opportunity, because the talent was there coming out of Florida. I think they want to give him a shot, but Frank Gore is still there, and
he's a bruiser.
He is a bruiser, and he'll outlive all of us here. That's what he's like. Obviously, we're both taking the Chiefs in this one. I don't even have to go into too much depth here.
I thought about it, but no.
Yeah, there's a little. I think it's going to be. Is it going to be a 21-point spread or less? Are you taking the over/under on 21-point differential?
Well, I would still take the over on that one.
Yeah, I think so.
One thing that's been going around on Sam Darnold, I would love to see him be traded to the Steelers and take over there next year.
I think that we've said that with a few different quarterbacks, Dwayne Haskins, Sam Darnold. I think it's a great opportunity where you sit for maybe 1 year. Jameis Winston is in the same situation. Does Breeze pull him up and retire and Winston take over? Or does he maybe take a look at maybe Roethlisberger retires and Winston slides over there, because there's some opportunities there for quarterbacks, especially these young quarterbacks. And with this new class coming in, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, obviously the aforementioned Trevor Lawrence, there's some more quarterbacks that are going to be without jobs here sooner than later. So
BYU kid, Zach Wilson too.
You like lead nation in passing.
Playing their way up.
Mac Jones there in Alabama.
Mac Jones, yeah.
Putting up better numbers than Tua did. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, he's doing this with NFL caliber receivers against NFL caliber defenses in the SEC. You talk about Jalen Waddle, Michi. He's doing these with pro receivers, first round receivers. Yep. And we know there's some first round DBs in the SEC. So it's fun to watch those battles down there. So we go from guys who have good arms and future and stuff like that to Indianapolis and Detroit, where Philip Rivers' arm may actually fall off at some point, but it's probably from carrying his children around and not from football. What are you looking for here with Indianapolis and Detroit?
I mean, if there's one, every time I look at Indianapolis and sit there to do my thread and all that, I ask myself, okay, can I trust anyone, I guess, other than Trey Burton on Indy? And this would be the 1 week playing Detroit where you might be able to say, okay, get T.Y. Hilton going. I still can't trust Zach Pascal. Michael Pittman's back in practice, but I don't expect him to be back playing for another probably 2-3 weeks. So it has to be the T.Y. Hilton show if they want to win.
Interesting. I cannot
through the air at least. JT, obviously, Jonathan Taylor is going to be.
Yeah, I want to get behind Hilton. I want to believe in Hilton again. I just don't know if I can. He's broken my heart too much this year. I was high on him coming into the season. I was like, yeah, he's going to lead these receivers, but he does not look like the T.Y. Hilton of old. We talk about Philip Rivers not being Philip Rivers of the San Diego Chargers days. Well, T.Y. Hilton doesn't look like anything like he was even last year, let alone 3 years ago. He looks like a shell of his former self. So I just can't get behind him. I'd like to. This is definitely a matchup he can get in on and do well. But we said that about the Jaguars and the Lions a couple weeks ago too. We thought it was going to be a shootout there, but that kind of backfired on us where Stafford only threw for, I don't know, you got one touchdown? Yeah, you must have got one touchdown that game. So if Matt Stafford could only get one touchdown on the Jags, I don't know if he's going to be able to do much more against this Colts pass defense that's among the best in the league right now.
Yeah.
And why are they so good?
How much do they suffer from losing Malik Hooker, in your opinion?
I don't know if it's much of a drop-off right now. Hooker had some talent, but you know what? They've never really had him. You look at his injury history. It's that old age set. I think I've seen it on some romantic comedies or something. I think it was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or whatever it was. You remember the thing where they're like together and they're singing that horrible song together. Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson, and they're there and they both find out that they kind of had a bet on each other. You remember this? And he goes, yeah, congratulations. You finally lost a guy in 10 days. And she goes, you can't lose something you never had. Well, the Colts never had Malik Hooker. They've never really had Malik Hooker at all. So how can you miss not having him if you've never had him in your lineup? You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
And Matt Stafford, as good as he like this, I'm trying to think of the Colts and who they've actually played this year. And I'm kind of going through my lineup. I'm like, okay, who have they actually played that has the complement of receivers and running backs that the Lions have? So you kind of pull that up on your screen there, and you're like, okay, who can we compare to Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay? Like, who have they actually played, right? Right now I'm trying to actually pull it up because I can't remember who they've actually played, but where are you at, Jonathan?
I mean, you can't use the Bears because quarterback-wise, A-Rob is solid. I think Darnell Mooney is one of the most underrated rookies. Can't really use them. Vikings, they played the Vikings.
You've got Jefferson. This was week 2 Jefferson, not week I'm going to go off Jefferson. The Jags, you said first week, DJ Chark, he had a good week against them, but there's not a complimentary receiver, a Marvin Jones type. Next question, Bears. Darnell Mooney hadn't emerged. Anthony Miller was not a true number 2 there. It was Allen Robinson only. The Browns are probably the closest to him. But even then, Odell Beckham Jr. hasn't been as good as advertised. Jarvis Landry, like this may be the closest matchup they've had is OBJ and Jarvis Landry compared to Golladay, Marvin Jones, DeAndre Swift, throwing him in there, TJ Hawkinson. So when you look at the overall package that Detroit's coming out, this may be the biggest test for the Colts thus far in their pass defense. Now, they have one thing going for them that you can't take away, and that's DeForest Buckner, that interior pressure that he provides. So that always gives quarterbacks fits when you have your own offensive lineman, your own guard and center sitting in your lap when you're trying to make a pass. But I do like the Lions this week. I love Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford's like my spirit animal, let's be honest. Actually, Philip Rivers is my spirit animal because we both fornicate as much as possible and both have like 13 children or something. Sure. I might even have more right now. I don't even know. Who's keeping track anyway? But reality is I got the Lions winning this one. I'd love to see T.Y. Hilton get going. I just don't see it happening. It's more of a knock on T.Y. than anything. And I just like to see the Lions succeed. There's something about watching the Lions and them having success. You kind of root for them. I think it was all those years being bad with Barry Sanders on the team that you kind of just have this soft spot for him. But I want to see Matt Stafford, mostly because I have him in a lot of my fantasy teams, just light it up. Because I love when Matt Stafford gets going. You know what I'm saying? Plus, Fat Matt Stafford from the memes and stuff you see. You remember Fat Matt, right?
Yeah.
He was like the best fat guy they had. So I'm all for that right now.
Yeah, I want to see Kenny Galladay's target share go up as well. Man, that guy is good.
He's not getting fed as often as we would hope right now, right? He's not getting, and I don't know where those targets are really going because they're not really going to Marvin Jones. They're not really going to Hawkinson. Where are the targets really getting dispersed to at this time? It's kind of the question, like, where's it going? It's like changing your couch cushion right now. You know you had money in your pocket. You know it probably fell on the couch, but when you take the cushion off, you can't find it. It's probably because one of your kids already beat you to it. So I got the Lions. Who do you got?
I'm going to go with the Colts. I think this is going to be a Jonathan Taylor breakout game, and they're going to ride him to a win.
Well, that's the one thing the Lions are going to struggle with a little bit is that run game, but we'll see. I'm still not sold on Jonathan Taylor's vision yet. I'll do air quotes like Dr. Evil. Vikings, Packers, what do you got?
Yeah, so the big question there is Aaron Jones. You got the two big running backs, two big names. Aaron Jones, LaFleur could elect to be more conservative and just keep him out, run with Jamal Williams. Please don't start A.J. Dillon. It's not going to
Thank you. It won't happen again. Did it. Been there, done that.
Yeah, so I think he could very well be ready. Aaron Jones could very well be ready, but by his own
admission, he was ready last week.
Yep, agreed.
If it was up to him, he would have gone. But we know the Packers are probably one of the most conservative teams when it comes to injuries out there. Except for
on one end, it's a good thing because, like with Devonta Adams, he could have pulled Julio Jones. He plays too early and then misses another game, So it could be a good thing. But yeah, I think Aaron Jones ends up playing, and Dalvin Cook is looking like he's trending towards playing too. He'll be back.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that they're going to he's going to be active for this week, so they may take it easy on him this week still for practice. Don't be shocked if you see a lot of limited practices from him. Just to make sure he gets right while he can right now.
Now,
what
you think Jair Alexander shadows Thielen or Justin Jefferson?
Boy. I don't know if he's going to travel all that much because really, you pick your poison between the two.
Right.
I think we've seen for the most part Thielen play on the outside and Jefferson more in the slot. I think they may elect to go with Jefferson, Jair Alexander on Thielen just to keep him to the outside and see what they can do on the inside there with Jefferson. I think Jefferson's going to have another good game here this week. Maybe not as good as T. Higgins, but
and Irv Smith. I think he's going to keep ramping up as well.
He's definitely getting more play, more production, more snap count and stuff as we go along. Kyle Rudolph has been a non-factor this season. I'm not even sure he's on the Vikings anymore, to be honest with you. Well, if they can find a buyer, you got to kind of get some production out of him before you get some trade value out of him. On the flip side, we're still waiting to see who emerges as that secondary option in the passing game for the Packers. And this is a game that this is something we're going to be looking at until all of a sudden they make some crazy ass trade and bring in Will Fuller or something like that. We've seen the rumors on Twitter. I don't see it. I think they'd be, honestly, the cheapest receiver they're probably going to find right now for not having to give up as much capital is probably AJ Green. You could probably get him a lot cheaper than you're going to get Will Fuller, and you're probably going to get similar production, at least similar service out of them. Both of them are both risks anytime they're on the field as far as injuries are concerned. But we'll see. They're desperate for that secondary option opposite of Devontae Adams. Now, we've seen them play a game where they absolutely destroyed a team with no Devontae Adams, basically throwing the ball to Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, and Robert Tonyan. So we know they can play games without receivers if they have to. But who's going to emerge as that second option? And they're going to have to do it this week. Because if they don't emerge, if Valdez-Scantling doesn't emerge as that number two, if help me out here, who's the other
Quinimus St. Brown.
St. Brown.
butchered.
If someone does not step up and take that option, they may become the third or fourth option in a hurry, because I think the Packers are serious for once in making that trade and adding another wide receiver in this year. So
my big question is, they have to decide that soon. The other factor is Alan Lazard is due back. He's back at practice, so I think they're gonna. I think they may have already opened that window, the 21-day designated to return window for him. So if he comes back, do they pull off a trade, or do they just slide him back to wide receiver 2?
I don't know if you're going to get Alan Lazard. Alan Lazard's an interesting piece there, because, and I think it's more to do with the Packers' offense than it is his talent. It's just, I think so much attention goes towards Davante Adams that you're funneling 11 targets minimum a game towards Davante Adams. So if you don't make the most out of your 4 or 5 targets, you're not getting that production out of that wide receiver 2 that you'd want to. Now, saying if you bring in another big alpha in there, like a Will Fuller or a AJ Green or a Marvin Jones, who I've also heard on the trade block possibility, you bring one of those guys in over Lazard, and he may push Lazard to wide receiver 3. Not necessarily a bad thing. If I'm the Packers, though, and I've already got Adams on the outside. I know Lazard's coming back also on the outside. I got Tanyan on the inside as my tight end. I'm probably looking for more of a slot receiver at this point. Someone who can work a little bit more inside and see where we can go from there. I'm just trying to respond here. We got a concerned chase over the fact that our boy Calvin's not with us this week. But if you're just tuning in, Calvin's not with us. It's kind of hurricane season down in Louisiana. Prayers out to everyone down there right now, hoping for safe passage and everything that's going on. Keep safe. You probably won't actually see this because you don't have power right now, so I don't know really what's going on, why I'm saying anything, because you're probably not going to see this. But, we're here for y'all, and, we hope the best for you guys right now. Packers, Vikings. So many different things here. Aaron Jones versus Dalvin Cook's a fantastic matchup inside a matchup to watch. I think both are going to have plenty of opportunities, because where they have success is in the passing game. Both Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones are factors in the passing game as well as the running game. And we know that that's where they're going to make that's why Dalvin Cook is a top 5 fantasy running back, and why Aaron Jones was a top 2 before his injury, because of what they can do in the passing game. So I think we see that go back to this week, especially with the Packers. If Jones is in and they don't have that second, because Jones is their secondary receiving option. Let's be honest.
Yeah, as much as people want it to be Tanyan, it's not Tanyan.
And I wanted to be Tanyan because I got a whole whack load, an unhealthy amount of Tanyan on my rosters right now.
That's right. I keep saying Tanyan. It's Tunyon.
Tanyan.
Tunyon.
It don't matter. I'm going to say it wrong, and I'm going to say it right about 8 different times. So, next matchup, black and blue division here. We're going to see a slugfest. Oh, you're taking the Packers? Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Packers here too. I just can't get behind the Vikings this week. I think the Packers, they took one on the chin here a couple weeks ago. They're. I said, remember last week, I said the thing I wanted to watch in that matchup is how petty Aaron Rodgers was, and boy, did he come back with vengeance, eh?
Yep.
He was pissed about that loss the week before. And we know Aaron Rodgers is a petty individual. His pettiness is right up there with mine. So we're going to have a slugfest in Baltimore. This one's an interesting matchup because this is a pick'em for me. Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. Last I seen, Baltimore is the favorite in this matchup. I think they're like a 7-point favorite or so, give or take.
7 points.
I don't know. One of my against the spread leagues has them as 7, so I took the Steelers against the spread. But head up, man. We talk about the back end and the front end of teams working hand in hand, and this is if you're like me and you're a defensive guy, this is like cocaine, man. On top of more cocaine, like you're going to get one heck of a ride defensively here. You got two of the best defensive teams historically, because we always talk about Steelers and Ravens. No matter how bad they are defensively, we still talk about them as one of the greater defenses in all the leagues. But as far as pass rush goes, they're both in the top 5 PFF grades as pass rush goes. Baltimore has a top 5 blocking line as far as PFF goes. When you've got a good pass rush, you usually have a good back end. And you're talking guys like Elliott, you're talking Marlon Humphrey, you're talking big name guys on Baltimore's end. You're talking Fitzpatrick. Mike Hilton should be back this week. Joe Hayden. There's some big names on the back end that it's going to be hard to move the ball. And here's the thing. I just told you guys, Derek Carr has been outperforming one Lamar Jackson. And guess what? He's going to outperform him again this week because Lamar Jackson's going against that Steelers team. I know Devin Bush is out. That's a huge hole on that Pittsburgh's linebacking core. But, man, I really believe in the Steelers team. Everything I've seen about them. I think Baltimore's a fantastic team and has a fantastic roster. But I look at the Steelers right now. I'm like, offensively, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, that other receiver there. James Washington, Chase Claypool. Like, there's some good receivers there. And James Conner you've got in the backfield. Like, they've got talent across the board, and Baltimore does too. This is going to be a slugfest. But what I'm watching is my favorite season of all. Mark Ingram injured season, which means it's Gus Edwards season. Get on the Gus bus. J.K. Dobbins, you got to keep watching. Watch the Rutgers machine get at it again this week. He is the best yards per carry running back that Baltimore has, and that is a fact. Yards per carry, Gus Edwards dominating that backfield. I don't care. I love me some Gus Edwards. He's like ecstasy for me right now. He is like, when I'm watching Gus, I get excited. Whenever I see like him bust off like an 8-yard run, I'm like, yeah! I put that to the average. That's what I want to watch. But the Steelers are a tough team to run on. They're going to be a tough team to get their offense on. I guarantee you they're going to make it hard for Lamar Jackson to get outside of that pocket. It's going to be darn near impossible. They're going to make Lamar Jackson be a passer in this game. And I don't know. But all aboard the Gus bus. I think he's going to bust some big runs off this week.
As much as I want it to be JK all day, I do agree with you. I think, yeah, it's going to be Gus more. They use him. He like you said, he's the best in yards per carry. He's the one thing I'm looking for in this defensive matchup is one thing that people haven't talked enough about. And as a Niners fan, I saw this a lot, is Greg Roman does not adjust year to year. And I think teams are finding out how to beat the Ravens offense. And Roman isn't adjusting. And so we're going to see him continue to struggle.
And it's a simple, it really is. And maybe I'm just full of myself, but a simple adjustment in a Roman type offense in this kind of situation. You know, Mark Ingram's out. We know that he's not out yet, but I think he's treading in that direction.
I think he's going to be out. I believe he's dealing with a high ankle sprain. They've been kind of quiet about it, but probably out for at least, I would say, 2 weeks.
You want to show us something. You've got an uber athletic Miles Boykin on one side. You got a speedster Marquise Brown on the outside. On the other outside, you got Mark Andrews, one of the top tight ends on the inside. Why would you not just line? We talked about this with the weapons that Carolina has. Why wouldn't you keep Gus Edwards as your running back and split Dobbins into the slot? You've seen what he can do with his limited touches in the passing game. You see the football is about creating advantages and mismatches throughout. You've already got a mismatch at quarterback. You know what I mean? If you give him an inch of daylight, he's going to take it and he's going to pick up a huge chunk yards. So why wouldn't you put J.K. Dobbins in the slot and move him around and make someone play man on him all game long? Because it is a disadvantage in the passing game. And then you run draws with Gus Edwards when teams are focused on J.K. Dobbins. You get that offense going. Again, not a professional coach. I did coach some high school football in the day. I coached some junior high football as well. So I think I know a thing or two about NFL offenses. But yeah, so I'm watching Gus Edwards eat a little bit this week because I love myself some Gus Edwards. And I'm taking the Steelers. So
Taking the Steelers. Deontay Johnson should be fine to play as well. I know after the game he said he's dealing with a bone bruise in his ankle. Yeah, so he should be able to play. He left for, I believe, 3 or 4 snaps, came back in, ran an in route and sprinted he looked pretty good after the injury.
Granted, yeah, it was a nice return.
What?
It was a nice little return back to action for him there.
Yeah. So I think he'll be fine to play. So we should see these teams at full strength aside from Mark Ingram.
Yeah, and this won't be the last time these teams match up. So I think that's another reason. Go ahead.
Sorry. One other boost to the Steelers too is it looks like Derek Watt's going to be back as well, which that should help their run game.
That's a very underrated thing that you brought up again. We talked about the linemen not getting love. Fullbacks need their love too, especially a guy like Derek Watt who does provide so much for them in that run game there, especially for James Conner, Benny Snell. Doesn't matter who you stick back there. He's definitely a benefit. Speaking of Derek Watt, we're going to talk about his former team now. The Los Angeles Chargers, Denver Broncos. Give me Justin Herbert. I love me some Justin Herbert. Anyone who knows me, if you purchase the IDP guy /DFD rookie magazines, I was screaming from the rooftop, Justin Herbert's better than Joe Burrow. Mostly because I hate LSU, so that definitely factored into the equation as well. But Justin Herbert has been as good, if not better, than Joe Burrow has so far this season. You can honestly make an argument for both of them so far as Rookie of the Year. I would give it to Herbert right now. He's done more with less time, in my opinion, than Joe Burrow. But on the flip side, I think Herbert's had a little bit more talent to work with than what Burrow's had. Proven talent, let's put it that way. He's got some talent there in Cincinnati, but nowhere near a Keenan Allen yet or Hunter Henry. So, which, by the way, that's what I'm looking for, Hunter Henry getting going again. I have this feeling that I'm going to be asking this part when we talk Chargers will be me looking for Hunter Henry to get going pretty much every week because he's been MIA right now. And you would have thought every tight end was catching touchdown passes last week. Like Donald Parham got involved again. And I'm like, oh, really? He spread. I don't know what the numbers were, but Herbert passed 10 different receivers or something stupid. And I was like, really? Hunter Henry? Come on. Really? Let's get involved in this game here. But I'm going to keep on going on here. The other thing I'm watching closely the Philip Lindsay concussion protocol. Now I'm looking at injuries. I love Philip Lindsay. He was actually doing well. He was going off. He was outperforming Melvin Gordon until the concussion. He got me some big points in the SFBX in his limited time. So definitely another guy I'm watching closely this week, see if he gets out of concussion protocol. One thing that we didn't mention earlier, or we might have, I can't remember, in regards to the Bears matchup. The Bears playing? Did we talk? Yeah, we didn't talk about the Bears. Anyway, Allen Robinson's also in the concussion protocol too, so something else to keep in mind. I think he's got a little bit more time to recover than most guys, but never mind. That game's coming up in 2. Philip Lindsay's concussion protocol is the one thing I'm watching, and just the maturation of Justin Herbert and how he's functioning in this offense. It is a beautiful thing to watch. Oregon didn't ask him to do a whole lot when he was there, and he's absolutely meeting and exceeding people's expectations in this small sample that we've seen. But Hunter Henry, please get going, man. You're killing me. You are killing me.
Henry has seen, at least for targets, I feel like he has
he had 11 targets getting last week.
Yeah, he's 8, 7, 4, 8, 7.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen the targets. So I actually told a buddy he was looking for a tight end. And I told him probably cheapest buy now is Hunter Henry. No one's talking about him. He's seen the targets. It'll probably ramp up too.
Absolutely. It's got it. The targets are there. The targets are there. That's the thing. Herbert is looking for him. It's just about making do on those and capitalizing here. What are you looking for in this matchup?
I'm looking for a healthy Justin Jackson. I think he was limited last week with his knee. He came into practice full. I still like Jackson's skill set over Joshua Kelly's. I think Kelly's going to have a hard time rushing against Denver's front seven. So I like Justin Jackson here, filling the Eckler role. And then for Denver, I love Philip Lindsay, so I hope he clears concussion protocol. And if not, I mean, you're rolling out Melvin Gordon without question. He hasn't even been penalized yet for the DUI. The other thing I'm looking at is if Tim Patrick plays, he's dealing with a hamstring injury. So we could see KJ Hamler roll up. I know Jerry Judy's playing a lot, but could be KJ Hamler that steps in for Tim Patrick.
Yeah, we'll see because, I'm a big believer in Tim Patrick here, what he's been able to do, mostly because he's like a waiver wire darling. You were getting him off the waiver wires earlier, and he was giving you production. So I'd like to see him get back in the lineup. But I think a lot of us are waiting to see what a healthy KJ Hamler can actually do. Yeah. Now we go to your team here. They got them. So this is a fun match.
One other note, sorry. Noah Fant. I know some people are concerned about him, and I do need to look more into it. Someone mentioned that he left the fourth quarter a little bit early, but they were down by a good amount. I think Noah Fant should be full good to go for that matchup.
That's good to know. So your 49ers, they're a little dinged up again. They've been dinged up since the start of the season. Let's be honest. They're going against the Seahawks this week. I'm going to throw it out there. I've already taken the 49ers to win this game.
Yeah, I love that.
I do. I like the matchup. I think they got slapped there a little bit, and they're a proud team over there, and they got their little wake-up call with the Dolphins, and they've been playing a little bit better. And now Arizona exposed some of the warts of that Seattle team.
Yeah.
Now, it's all going to come down to what Jimmy Garoppolo can do, and if he can pass the ball more than 5 yards down the field is what it's going to come down to, because he's going to have to take shots on the Seattle team, and you can take shots. Jamal Adams, I think this is the game they're targeting to get him back in the lineup. I think that's why they kind of took their time with him, this and that, and whatnot. But right now, the best team in this division is actually the Cardinals, in my opinion, because they just took down Seattle. So, whoever wins this may move themselves back up into the top spot. You know what I mean? Like, we talk about the 49ers record. We talk about Seattle. No one wants to talk about Arizona. Well, all these teams in the NFC won last week, except for Seattle, who lost to Arizona. Yeah. This is literally a division. While unlikely, it's plausible that all four teams make the playoffs in the new 7-team system.
Shoot, that's true.
Yeah. This is the only division I believe that's every team is above 500. This is a slugfest every single week you get into it. You need to win every matchup you can. So this, for me, is another pick 'em. I'm taking the 49ers. I think they get going. I think we're going to see – I want to see what happens with this running back field right now in San Francisco. Yep. No matter who you plug into the running back position, whether it's Mostert, whether it's McKinnon when he gets an opportunity, whether it's Telvin Coleman, we've seen him have success, whether it's help me out here, not McKinnon, not Hasty.
Jeff Wilson
last week was going bananas until his ankle was.
Yeah, high ankle.
So we know San Francisco wants to run the ball. We know Shanahan schemes ways to run, probably mostly because they don't want Garoppolo throwing. I think that's really the reason why they figure out different ways to run, different types of things, and little shovel passes that boost up his confidence and his touchdown numbers, even though it's an 8-inch pass. That said, how's this backfield going to work? I love me some Jet McKinnon, but I have a lot of Hasty shares as well. So I believe in Hasty. I believe in his talent, but man, I really want Jet McKinnon to have that success. I think it's a fantastic story when he gets going again. So I'm really interested to see. I thought McKinnon would have got more touches last week. That did not happen. So does Hasty get everything this week?
So and it's the Tevin Coleman is going to muddy the waters a little bit because he has now been designated to return, and he was in practice today. And they were actually eyeing week 8 for a return for him. So I love JaMychal Hasty this week, but if Coleman's active, that muddies the waters a little bit. I honestly think something else is going on with Jet McKinnon because he looked great. What was it, the first 2 weeks when Mostert was out? And ever since, he has looked slow. He's lacked burst. He's been getting caught from behind with 20 yards of open field in front of him. There's something going on.
Definitely something to keep an eye on as we go forward, especially as players start to get healthy. Mostert's probably a couple weeks away from coming back because the dude's a machine. Yeah. Whatever they said, whatever the time frame is on him, I say you bump that up 2 weeks when we're talking about Raheem here because he's just that kind of player. He's also that undrafted. See, here's the thing. Mostert was an undrafted player. He wants to get in right now. If it was up to him, I bet you he'd be playing right now because he knows that if he sits out too long, he may not get his job back. That's kind of that hungry, undrafted free agent type mentality he's got going on. And now this doesn't come into play this week, but the Seahawks did trade with the Bengals and added Carlos Dunlap to their team. So that's going to make a difference as this NFC West race plays out down the road here in a couple of weeks when he gets into the lineup. I think he's eligible for next week, week 9, I believe, 5 days after the trade.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that'll be interesting to watch with the trade deadline is the COVID changes because it delays it 6 days.
Yeah, something like that. Which is a week of practice, so really it's almost like 2 weeks without a player.
Yeah.
So obviously,
the other thing I'm looking at on the Niners side is with no Deebo Samuel, he's out for at least 1 week, probably 2 with a hamstring strain. How do they get Brandon Ayuk going? And with Jamal Adams in there, if he's healthy, that's going to be a little more difficult. But to me, Seattle takes away Kittle and tries to take away the run game and makes Ayuk beat him. And probably Kendrick Bourne on the other side.
Be interesting. They got some talent. They got some players there. Man, that Deebo Samuel injury really hurts me in a lot of the leagues right now. George Kittle's a beast. Like they've still got some options. They're one of those teams that somehow survives no matter what happens to them. They're like the cockroaches of the NFL. So I'm going to assume that we're both in agreement here on the 49ers this week.
Yeah. And Seattle side, I know a lot of people are concerned about the Carlos Hyde hamstring strain. I think he's going to be fine. I expect him to play. And if not, it'll probably be the DJ Dallas show. Travis Homer is dealing with a knee bone bruise. And then Chris Carson, he's actually listed as a game time decision. But Seattle's always midfoot sprain. If he truly has a midfoot sprain, he's going to be out this week.
Well, it is Chris Carson, and we talk about undrafted free agents and that hunger to play. And I don't bet against Chris Carson no matter what. So if there's a chance for him to play, I think he tries to get it. Like, dude, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. His hip just about popping right off again. We thought he was dead again. So, and he was back in the lineup. So Chris Carson, I don't bet against either. So midfoot sprain, I think he's like the guy off Monty Python. It is but a flesh wound. His leg is literally chopped off. Speaking of chopping things off, we got Nick Foles and the Bears and the Saints this week. Can we please chop Nick Foles off your lineup and put Mr. Trubisky back in? That's what I'm seeing. Nick Foles was that rough to watch last week? The Bears offense, was that not one of the worst offenses you've watched? That's right up there that was right up there with watching the Jets offense go.
Yeah. To be honest, Goff didn't look all that much better.
No, he didn't. He was going against that Bears defense. That Bears defense is no slouch. I think we talked about the Jets, and earlier we talked about the Jets offense being as bad as it is. I think they've only scored like 85 points. They're the only team that hasn't hit triple digits as far as points go. Well, I think going into last Monday night's game against the Rams, I think the Bears only had 116 points on the season, and they didn't score very many.
Yeah, so I did a post on that. They were, before that game, they were the only team that was over 500 to not have 152 points. I think they had 116 or 118.
Yeah,
And
it was.
then 10 of the 14 teams that are 500 or below have outscored the Bears.
Yeah, it's that defense. It's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, top 5 defense.
And then you sit there and you're listening to Nagy talk. He's like, yeah, it doesn't happen very often when our defense outscores our offense. I'm like, dude, your offense hasn't done nothing. Put Trubisky back in. You know who hasn't lost a game with the Bears yet? Mitch Trubisky. Just saying.
He doesn't have a single loss?
No, he doesn't have a single loss. I might be making this up too. You're going to have to fact check it. But I'm pretty confident. So the one time they were getting defeated, Nick Foles came in and they won the game. Then he won, and then they've only lost like 2 games so far this year, right? I think Nick Foles is the quarterback of record in both of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this year. No, he's definitely lost more than 2 in his career. But get him back in your lineup. Whatever you're doing with Nick Foles, you can certainly be doing with Mitch Trubisky.
Well, and I read a report where, and who knows how true this is, but apparently a lot of the Chicago players are saying, hey, we want Trubisky back in. You know, we're tired of this, you know. I would be too.
This offense has actually looked worse without Mitch Trubisky.
Now imagine Allen Robinson not clearing concussion protocol. Imagine the offense then.
Where's Roberto? Where's Chev? We need them in here to give us their Bears opinion of their offense. Woo, boy, that's another show for another day. And on the flip side, yeah, there we go. Talk about the Saints receivers now.
Yeah, so there's a very good chance that Michael Thomas misses another game. He didn't practice today, and he strained his hamstring on Wednesday of last week. So this could very well be a 2-game absence. Emmanuel Sanders is still in the COVID IR protocol. He hasn't cleared that yet. And then Marquez Callaway, who I called, I know some people were saying Deontay Harris or Jared Cook. I called Marquez Callaway last week, and he led them in receiving. Well, he's dealing with an ankle injury. So I'll be curious how that plays out by the end of the week.
They're down to Traquan Smith and Jared Cook right now. And Jared Cook is so hit or miss. If it wasn't for last week, I don't think he's done a whole lot outside of last week going in. So,
and I
it
still
was a hamstring. It wasn't a hamstring injury. It was a Jeremy Chin injury that Michael Thomas had last week.
I saw that comment.
Or should I say it was a chin injury? That's probably where we should leave that. A chin injury. Got it when he was running a slant. That's for Calvin, who's also probably not going to rewatch this podcast. Obviously, I'm going to the Saints here. I think you have to take the Saints until the Bears offense does something. If Mitch Trubisky was in the lineup, I'd probably lean towards the Bears in that defense. They need something offensively going. There's got to be something. David Montgomery hasn't looked good. With Tariq, it's almost like as soon as Tariq Cohen went down for the year, it was like David Montgomery took a step back instead of taking a step forward. Because they do complement each other really well, but
still, I know DeMont has looked just so. Someone, I love the comment someone made where you need 10. You need 8 points from DeMont, he'll get you 10. You need 20 points from DeMont, he'll get you 10.
Yeah, I actually that too, and I was like, that is true. I needed 15 points from him last on Monday night, and guess what? That's not what I got. I got 10.
Yeah, but as bad as he has looked, they need to stop giving the ball to Cordarrelle Patterson. He's not fooling anybody.
No, Nagy's supposed to be this offensive guru when it comes to play calling, basically kind of the same as Sean McVay, and it worked for a year, and like Greg Roman, he's probably more comparable to Greg Roman than he is to Sean McVay.
So
What's up,
Ian,
here, buddy?
yeah, he brought up that comment, trade rumors for MT. I don't see anybody taking on that contract because they just signed him to an extension, right? Like a 5-year. No.
You know what? It's definitely worth a shot. I think there's teams that have the cap room to do it, but we've also seen teams be more financially fit, I guess is the best terminology to use, when it comes to their rosters and how they allocate the money. I don't think you have a problem paying a guy like Larry Fitzgerald in his prime that kind of money, because you're getting a good. Well, he's got his demons in his closet too that nobody ever talks about when it comes to Larry Fitzgerald, but we're not going to go there. He's generally a pretty good guy, keeps to himself. It's not about him. That's kind of what Fitzgerald was getting paid back in the day, where we've kind of heard today's modern receivers. I'm not saying all receivers this way, but there's that feeling amongst the typical fan of the prima donna receiver out there. And that's been around since AB, who's making a return here next week. That's been around there forever. So Michael Thomas, would I trade for him? You know what? I'd have to be a team that's right there in contention. More often than not, that these big trades you see, and across all sports platforms, when you acquire a big name player, rarely does it work into a championship for you. Usually when you're making trades, it's for that glue guy. That if you talk about hockey, it's that third, fourth line guy come playoff time that's going to give you that grit. Basketball, you're looking for that spark off the bench. Football, you need that guy who's going to be good in their locker room. There's so much on this team aspect of football that you need. Baseball, you're looking for pitchers. You're looking for relievers. What's the hottest commodity in baseball at the trade deadline? It's the relief pitcher. So, yeah, Ian, you hit it right on. AB vibes off of Michael Thomas right now. Yeah. I so wish Kelvin was here to defend himself right now, because he'd be like shaking his head at me. But it's funny because it's true. That's the vibes that we're getting off of him. As people in the fantasy industry, probably people amongst the scouting industry as well, and NFL locker. Why has no one traded for him? Rumors don't usually just fire up out of nowhere. Yeah. Is he going to get traded? Probably not. But where there's smoke, there's often fire. And there is smoke around Michael Thomas, especially you're talking about a guy who's played 1 week so far this season. And there's trade rumors involving. What are you doing in your time?
They traded Cooks before. They traded, they had someone, who was it before? Like Colston. They traded someone else years back.
Yeah, so what have you done for me lately type league? Right? So right now, Thomas is adding nothing to him. And, there's no guarantee Breeze is back next year. Yeah. That's just where we're at in their careers right now. So that's something to keep watching. Like I said, my thing I'm watching here is Mitch Trubisky to get back in the lineup. I think the Saints take this game pretty easily. And that's saying something, since we know Sanders is potentially out. We know Thomas is already out. Kamara against the Bears defense is going to be a fantastic matchup to watch. A matchup inside the matchup. Because I think last week he had like 80 yards receiving, 80 yards rushing. Like, he was all over the place. He's a different beast out there altogether.
And we were all concerned about his back at the beginning of the year.
Well, yeah, you think it'd be a little bit sore from carrying the team.
Yeah.
Speaking of teams that need to be carried, we're going to go to the Eagles and Cowboys matchup. Whew, what are you looking for here? The Eagles are starting to get healthy. The Eagles are starting to get some bodies back.
Something really interesting I noticed this week. I was looking at the snaps for Dallas, and ever since Dak went down in the past 2 weeks with Dalton at the helm, Zeke has only played, I want to say, around 65% of the snaps each. And granted, they've been down. He hasn't really done much with those touches. Their offensive line is just absolutely destroyed. Zach Martin, I think he might be back with a concussion, or out of the concussion protocol. But they're starting to get Pollard more involved. But I'm seeing this trend. I'm really curious if they start to sit their veterans a little bit more. And they started to sell a little bit too. They traded who'd they trade recently? Defensive side.
Griffin, I think, was talked about.
Everson Griffin, yep.
To the Detroit Lions. I think it was Detroit.
It was Detroit, yeah. So that's what I'm looking for on Dallas's side. Obviously, if Andy Dalton plays, or if it's I honestly don't even know the guy's name. The backup to the backup.
Benanucci?
Yep. Yeah.
I could say his name right, but I can't say Tua's name right.
Man. Yeah. On the flip side, Philadelphia, it sounds like, Travis Fulgham is a smash play this week against Dallas' defense. Sounds like Jalen Reagor might be back too. Yep.
I gotta get the Caddyshack music right now. I'm like the little gopher in Caddyshack. It's all right.
Yeah, don't expect Miles Sanders to be back. I think they still sit him out. He's day-to-day listed. But with the bye week next week, I think they sit him, roll with Boston Scott. Jalen Reagor, I expect back. And then Dallas Goedert, I think, is on the positive side of 50-50, 51-49 on coming back. I saw a video of him running routes. He looks pretty darn good.
And they need him. They need him right now. I think I seen the same report there at Goddard there. They activated him. He's on the 21-day activation roster right now, or whatever you want to call it. I think he's going to be activated long before 21 days. My boy, Jalen Reagor, I love him. He was my number one rated receiver coming out of the draft. I still believe him. I think he's a difference maker. Carson Wentz needs that. You throw that. Deshaun Jackson's done essentially for the year. I think he's done for the year already. I think that's written in stone.
Yeah.
So you bring Jalen Reagor.
There's a small chance he comes back like week 15 or 16, but
yeah, I'm not touching him with a soul. If I've got between him and Reagor right now, give me Reagor. Let me roll with him the rest of the season. You get Dallas Goedert back there with Reagor. You get Travis Fulgham doing what he's doing. Miles Scott 100% health, or Miles Sanders.
He's on the 76.
Y'all can piss off with your Boston Scott calls last week because he didn't do shit until that touchdown. I'll tell you that right now.
Yep.
That was BS. You had to wait till last. No, it was Calvin. Calvin was on his whole thing. Calvin's not here to defend him. Dude gets like the last 40 seconds of the game. He gets into the end zone. Really? And then you guys are all talking about how good of a call it was. Stop it.
Yeah, he did jack before that.
It took him 59 minutes and 20 seconds to do something. Okay? Stop it. It wasn't a good call. It was a lucky call. There's a difference. What am I looking for in this matchup? Is I'm looking for Reagor to come back in. I think he could come in, and I think if he's in your lineup this week, if he's healthy and ready to roll, I think he has a huge week against Dallas. Welcome back, Rook. I think he outscores CD Lamb this week in his return. You want to put two rookies together that people had? I had Reagor as number one. A lot of people had CD Lamb as their number one receiver. I think if Rager's healthy, and if he's playing this week, I think he goes off huge on the Dallas Cowboys in that secondary. And I think this is one of those games that Carson Wentz don't care what the score is. They're going to keep pounding it on because it's the Dallas Cowboys. And the good news is Ezekiel Elliott, like Ian was saying, is feeling so much pressure right now. Every time he touches the ball, he drops it. So you want to talk about why Dallas, why he's not getting the touches. Well, when you're turning the ball over, you don't get as many touches. That is generally the rule. You turn the ball over, you're not getting the ball back from a good offense for another 12 minutes, right?
Especially with Mike McCarthy in charge of that.
Well, that's it. And then you find yourself like the week there that he fumbled it twice on 2 carries there. All of a sudden, now you're down 14 points. Now it's a different ball game. You're playing catch up. You haven't touched the ball. Like you turn the ball over twice, like in 2 back-to-back carries that you get. That means your offense is probably not doing another play between those two in 15 minutes, right? 7 minutes of drive, whatever works out to. Then you do it, you fumble it again, and then you're not getting the ball for another 7 minutes. So Wentz has been the king of garbage time all season. Once that fourth quarter bell rings, well, here we go. Ian even points that out.
Yep.
Once that bell rings for the fourth quarter, it's like Wentz is on, and the Eagles all of a sudden decide, hey, you know what? We're in this game, or you know what? We're out of this game, but let's pad some stats. Let's get this ball going. They're not going to be behind this game. Washington embarrassed Dallas last week, and I expect Philly to do the same. Benanucci, good luck with Fletcher Cox, Derek Barnett, Vinny Curry. I don't know if he's Sweat's there. Like that pass rush. The Eagles are still like we talked about the Ravens. We talked about the Steelers. Well, the Eagles are also amongst that top 5 team as PFF defensive pass pressure is concerned. So they can get to you. They can get to the quarterback in a hurry as well as anybody. This is not a good game. Like I'm looking at survivor picks this week, and I kind of leaned towards our next matchup we're going to talk about, my survivor pick coming out of there. But I'm almost tempted to switch my survivor. There's a couple options. The Titans are obviously a good survivor pick to take too over the Bengals, but I'm almost looking that maybe the Eagles is a good play here in Dallas as a survivor pick. You know what I mean? Like I don't see any way that Dallas plays and wins this game. But I want to stay
more comfortable picking Philadelphia over Tennessee, honestly.
Yeah, I do. Like I said, I thought that other one's more of a trap game. I think the Eagles. This is a battle. This is for first place. They lose this. They don't have that. This is a stranglehold opportunity.
Wins.
Yeah. This is an opportunity to put. Don't forget about the tie. This is an opportunity to basically put themselves a little bit further ahead in this division. Sadly, so that's what I want. That's what I want to see here.
Yeah.
Plus, Jalen Reagor's back, and I'll be tuning in Sunday Night Football for Jalen Reagor. That's just what I'll do. Last matchup of the week: Buccaneers Giants. Buccaneers are my survivor pick of the week. Giants don't have a chance in this matchup, which means they'll probably win to piss me off. Let's be honest.
You never pick a Monday night game as your survivor pick.
No, but there's only like 3 of us left, so I'm hoping they eliminate themselves before me. What am I watching for here? I'm watching to see how bad the Bucs defense embarrasses the Giants offense. That's going to be a big one for me. The other thing I'm watching is this Mike Evans' last playable game for your fantasy rosters? That's what I want to know. Chris Godwin is out with a broken finger. That would have been nice of him to sit out the rest of the game against the Raiders, so the Raiders could have made a comeback and won. That would have been fantastic. So screw you, Chris Godwin, as far as my homerism is concerned. By the way, Chris Godwin's a fantastic football player. This may be the last time that we see Mike Evans factor into a game. There's been many games this year that, sadly, he has not been a factor in. Next week is AB back. Chris Godwin's probably back. You're probably healed from a broken finger in that period of time. Scotty Miller is still there. There's lots of mouths to feed in Tampa Bay, and it's a good problem to have if you're a Bucs fan, just not for fantasy players to have in your decision-making process. And if you can sell Mike Evans for anything of value right now, I think you have to look long and hard at that. And I love me some Mike Evans. He's one of my favorite receivers because he's another guy that we trash all the time out there, and all he does is put up 1,000-yard seasons. I think 6 straight or 7 straight right now. He's had his 1,000 yards every year he's played in the National Football League since his rookie year or whatever it is, or his second year. But this may be his last hurrah as far as fantasy points go.
It's funny you say that too, because I actually bold take Scotty Miller outscores Mike Evans. Especially if James Bradbury is on Mike Evans.
Oh, man, you know what? This is normally I would take you up on this bet because it seems like a slam dunk for me because of Godwin being out and this and that and Evans. But man, Evans has been a roller coaster this year, and like Ian points out, it's Gronk is there. He's got Tom Brady's trust. We really haven't seen Evans outside of that one game there where it was all Evans and nobody else. Yeah. Gronk is there.
One game, he had, 2 catches, 2 yards, and 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, like seriously. Them's the goal line fullback numbers. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Evans is definitely there's a strong consideration that Evans may not be back with Tampa Bay next year. I think a lot of that's going to depend on how Antonio Brown falls in the line in Tampa Bay. I wouldn't count Evans out there yet. I think Brown was signed in because of the injuries. Evans has been banged up this year. Chris Godwin has been banged up this year. Scotty Miller is like indestructible. But you look at where they're at with their wide receivers, and I don't think they've had their full complement of receivers healthy yet this year. And I think that's the main reason AB was brought in. I know we talk about coaches speak, coaches talk. Bruce Arians was quoted earlier in the before the season started about he didn't want any part of Antonio Brown. And now he hasn't really changed his tune. He says, you know what, we'll let the court process play out. Fair enough. But if we find out there was something wrong with what he had done, he's gone again. That's a coach who owns that locker room. So even if AB comes in and does what AB does, he's going to be reined in. Let's be honest. Or else he's gone. I don't think this is a very player-friendly contract. This is a prove-it type of deal that he probably signed to get back in. And I don't like it because Tyler Johnson is not going to be factoring in as much. And we all love ourselves some Tyler Johnson.
Yeah.
But this, for me, is Mike Evans' last stand here in Tampa Bay to do something. He's got to do something right now, because if he doesn't do it now, if he doesn't get some sort of chemistry going with Tom Brady before Godwin and Brown are in the lineup, it may be a while before we might have games where Evans is the lead dog out of nowhere. Like, we might see those 3 catches for 4 yards and 3 touchdown type games pop up every now and then. But if he doesn't do something this week where he puts up 80-plus yards, 6-7 catches, a touchdown, this may be the last time to play him and then sell him and get a value back out of him.
The other thing, so if James Bradbury's on him, that's a little bit of a ding. The other thing that's going against him is he's still dealing with that high ankle injury. I don't remember. I think it was week 2 or week 3, and he's been hampered by it this whole time.
Yeah, he's been hurt all season. He's been banged up all season. There's no doubt. I'm not worried about Bradbury. We're talking Mike Evans here. We're not talking about prime Josh Norman on him. We're not talking Darrell Green. We're not talking Deion Sanders. We're talking James Bradbury here. James Bradbury. Mike Evans is 10 times the athlete and ball player that James Bradbury is. That said, he's on one leg.
Yeah.
So he may give James Bradbury a chance in this one because of that. But reality is, I think Mike Evans is one of the top 5 receivers in the game when healthy. People can make that argument. They could argue against me. It's not going to do them any good because I won't listen. But they can make that argument. These are the facts people come and tune in for. Dingus facts, which is me just rambling off numbers and hoping nobody actually looks up the numbers to see if I'm right or wrong.
Chase is over there just typing, looking at him.
Chase got sick of listening to me a while ago. I think it's just me and Ian on here right now as far as viewership goes.
Yeah, on the Giants end too, Devonta Freeman is banged up. He's dealing with an ankle injury. He was just on the sidelines doing rehab. So,
boy, how pissed off are people that played Devonta Freeman for that 0.8 points they got? Oh man, that looked like such an opportunity to get here. By the way, I did that. I had him in my lineup too last week in one lineup. Yeah, I thought I got away from it all.
Gallman goes off for what, 14, 15? I shouldn't say goes off, but yeah.
Yeah, well, the only reason he got what he got is because Daniel Jones couldn't stay on his feet. And he stumbled on like 4.
Hey, he's still running back 1, though.
Daniel Jones is running back 1. That's what that is.
Now, last week, I said, I think it was Wednesday night or Thursday morning, I put out a post, go grab Sterling Shepard now so you don't have to go through waivers. And I had a couple people reach out and say, hey, good call on that. Like, thank you for that. But some people are like, man, I should have done it. And then they didn't get him on waivers. So he's going. He's probably not available in your league, but I think he goes back to being wide receiver 1 over Slayton.
So just a fun fact. Just a fun fact. So I know we've been piling on the Bears. They have a 5-2 record. They've scored 138 points. They've given up 140 points this year. They've given up more than they've scored and are 5-2. Meanwhile, the Washington Football Club, who is arguably one of the worst teams out there, has scored 5 less points than the Bears and only given up 25 more than them.
Wow.
Now, let's give Washington some credit. Their defense is fantastic when they're 100% healthy. They're right up there with the Bears, especially when it comes to their front.
Yeah.
But there's only a 25-point difference in points allowed. That said, that's one of the better points allowed. I think I'm looking at it right now. As far as points against, the Rams are better, the Cardinals are better, the Bears are better, and the Bucks. That's it in the NFC. As far as points against. But really, we pile on a team that started had Alex Smith play quarterback this year. They've also had a bye week as well. The Washington Football Club are 5 points behind a 5-2 team. Now, obviously, the Jets are by far the worst in football as far as points scored because they're at 85. 85 points. These are some fact checking, so I was right on that. But the Bears, come on, be better.
Yeah, who would you rather have, Kyle Allen or Nick Foles as your quarterback?
Give me Dwayne Haskins. Put him back in. Put Mitch Trubisky back in. I want both their backups.
I'll take Trubisky. I don't know about Dwayne Haskins.
You know what? For fantasy, he's been pretty good when he's got an opportunity because it's been a lot of garbage time.
Yeah, but real life NFL quarterback, who do you want at the helm? You know, Haskins
between those two,
pretty darn bad.
Well, between the four, I want Mitch Trubisky.
Oh yeah. If he's in the pool, yeah.
Now, if we're down to the three of Haskins, Allen, and Foles, I'm wearing some Wildcat.
Yeah.
There's an easy way out of that, eh?
Yeah.
I might even go back to Alex Smith. That might be your best option.
I'll take Jarvis Landry.
Oh, he's got a good passing. He's been lighting it up here this year. I think he's got a couple passing touchdowns, doesn't he?
At least one, I think.
That'd be interesting to see how many quarterbacks who started this year have less passing touchdowns than Jarvis Landry. There's your homework for next week going into it.
Yeah.
Usually that's something I'd pile on Calvin's plate. How many quarterbacks who have started a game have less passing touchdowns than Jarvis Landry? I guess it all helps if we actually look to figure out how many Jarvis Landry actually has. But I thought
Jared Stidham for sure. I don't think he threw a touchdown.
Stidham?
400. Yeah, Stidham.
Now I'm very curious. The show's over, people. The show's over here. Now we're just kind of rambling on. And just because I'm more curious than anything. Let's see. Jarvis Landry. What have you done? It doesn't really say his passing numbers in here. Okay, so he definitely got one against the Dallas Cowboys, a passing touchdown.
He has one. Yeah, he just has one. And Brett Ripien has one. Jared Stidham has one. Cedric Wilson has one as well, wide receiver for the Cowboys.
What about Drew Lock?
Drew Lock has one. Even CJ Beathard has one. There we go.
Interesting.
That is embarrassing. Drew Lock only has one. How many games has Drew Lock started?
Like 3, maybe?
3? Yeah.
People should
Cam
know.
Newton has only 2 passing touchdowns.
Well, either way, my bet with Calvin, we'll have to try and come up with something here as we go through the week. I'll have to touch base with him if he gets power back in his house. I know you talked about he had a power bump and yada, yada, yada. So we got to try and come up with a bet. He's still got to suck some eggs back, though.
Yeah.
I will not let him get away. He better videotape that and we bring it on next week's show or we post it on the Facebook. But he will be sucking some hard or raw eggs back down and getting stronger, getting harder. What is it? I know he had something special he was trying to do for a video for us all, but we'll see. Until next week, for Calvin and Hobby, who couldn't be with us today because of a hurricane, whatever that is down in Louisiana, I'm Matt Donnelly at Dingus4. Over here is Jeff. Jeff, tell them who you are, where you're at, what you're doing.
Yep, I'm Jeff Mueller at JM Thrive PT, doing injury threads and injury analyst at Destination Devi and Dynasty Vipers. Check us out.
Yeah, you guys if you haven't done it now, you got to get yourselves a part of the Patreon there over at Destination Debbie, man. Jeff's got some great information he shares over there. And Ray, there's no one better right now out there than Ray. Ray's a great guy. I love myself some Ray. When it comes to Debbie and rookie guys, he's one of the best evaluators of talent out there today that you'll find on Facebook. So definitely check them out over at Destination Debbie. You do yourselves a favor. It'll make you a better fantasy player. With that said, this was episode 24 of the ViperCast. Tune in next week. We'll make sure we get some egg sucking going on. Hopefully we get you some slump busting going. This is the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast, and we are gone.